Now let us discuss about food chains, which are helpful in recycling of the ecosystem. Food chains. A food chain is the source by which energy passes from one living thing to another. Food web. The interconnected food chains, operating in an ecosystem, which establish a network of relationships between various species, is called a food web. There are three types of food chains: producers, consumers, and decomposers. Let us discuss about each one in detail. Let's start with producers. Producers are the organisms which can prepare their own food from simple inorganic substances like carbon dioxide and water by using sunlight energy in the presence of chlorophyll. For example, plants. Here, the green plants produce carbohydrates by photosynthesis and also synthesize proteins and fats. Here note that green plants are called producers, and also known as autotrophic organisms, self-feeder organisms. Producers are shown always at the bottom of the food chain. Now we will know about consumers. The organisms which consume food prepared by producers are called consumers. The consumers depend on producers for food, directly or indirectly. If an animal eats grass or other green plants, or their products itself, we say that it gets the food from producers directly. Examples for consumers are deer, cow, goat, buffalo, sheep, elephant, etc. If an animal eats the meat of another animal, which eats grass, then we say that it gets the food from producer indirectly. Example: lion, tiger, cheetah, etc. Consumers are divided into three types, based on their source of food. Primary consumers, secondary consumers, and tertiary consumers. Let us discuss about each one in brief. Primary consumers. Animals that eat only producers like plants are called as primary consumers or herbivores. Some of the examples are zebra, deer, goat, cow, elephant, etc. Secondary consumers. Animals that eat both plants and animals are called as secondary consumers or omnivores. Examples are man, bear, dog, etc. Tertiary consumers. Animals which eat only animals are called as tertiary consumers or carnivores. Examples are lion, tiger, cheetah, wolf, hawk, etc. Now, let us move on to the third part of food chain, that is decomposers. Decomposers recycle dead plants and animals into inorganic nutrients, such as carbon and nitrogen, which are released back into the soil, air and water. Examples are fungi, bacteria, etc. Let us discuss in short about the importance of decomposers. The decomposers help in decomposing the dead bodies of plants and animals, and hence act as cleansing agents of environment. The decomposers help in putting back various elements of dead plants and animals back into soil, air and water for use by producers like crop plants. This maintains fertility of soil. If there were no decomposers, then dead bodies of plants and animals cannot be broken into nutrients, and the environment is completely filled of these dead organisms. Note: nutrients are useful for growing plants. The images on your screen shows examples for food chain and food web. Food chain includes producers, consumers and decomposers, and food web includes food chains. Here, food taken from one source is converted into energy, which is used by consumers for doing work. Initially, the energy in food is generated from sun, and it is transmitted to plants and to other consumers in hierarchy. When one form of energy is changed to another, 90% of energy is lost, and this wasted energy is included into the environment. It means, on an average, only 10% of the energy is transmitted to the dependents, and rest of the energy is wasted in the form of heat. The diagram shows the loss of energy in food chain. Here note that joule is the unit of energy, and 1 joule is equal to 2.78 multiplied by 10 to the power of -4 watt per hour. Let us solve a sample problem using 10% law to calculate the amount of energy transferred to lion in the following food chain. If plants have 20,000 joules of energy available from the sun, by using 10% law, plants can trap only 1% of the sun's energy falling on them. Now, 1% of 20,000 joules is 200 joules, so the plants have actually 200 joules of energy available in them as food. The 10% law does not apply at this stage. The plants are eaten up by deer. Now, according to 10% law, 10% of 200 joules, that is, 20 joules of energy will be available in deer as flesh food. The deer will transfer 10% of its 20 joule energy to the lion. Thus, the food energy available to the lion will be 10% of 20 joules, which comes to 2 joules. Till now, we discussed how the energy is released. Now let us learn about the flow of energy in the ecosystem. The flow of energy is unidirectional. For example, the solar energy that is captured by plants cannot be reverted back to sun. The energy that is captured by consumers after eating plants cannot be reverted back to plants. In the same way, the decomposers break down organisms, which are converted to nutrients used by plants, and cannot be reverted back to consumers. By this, we can conclude that flow of energy is unidirectional. Food chain is the basic and very essential requirement for the survival of life in the organisms. The disadvantage of food chain is some harmful chemicals enter into our bodies, directly or indirectly. For example, pesticides and chemicals are used for the cultivation of crops. These food products are consumed, directly or indirectly by the consumers, which is very harmful and poisonous.